Hey guys, Lohengrin with Visible Gaming here. So today I'm going to do a little something different. I'm going to go over um, what I've used as my tank build for my first playthrough. So one thing to keep in mind is I did create this after I obtained the Gold Dragon Mythic Path. Um, this was the build I had generally taken in the first place. There were some minor adjustments that I wanted to make after I'd learned what things do and don't work as well within the build. And just real quick, there is some sort of bug going on with my Profane Ascension. I have the +4 on two different stats for some reason. But anyways, let's get into the build. So, the point of the build is really just to get your AC as high as you can while still maintaining a decent amount of damage output, which is mostly augmented by being able to turn into a dragon. But so the build starts out as a scaled fist monk, and the reason that I take this is for two major reasons. Scaled Fist Monk gets charisma bonus to their AC, and it gives you access to the crane style feats from early on. So the first thing that you do is you take one level in Scaled Fist. Your first feat is going to be dodge, and then you're going to take the crane style. And then what this allows you to do is start off the game as a decent tank. Because of the build, you're going to suffer a little bit in the early levels until you can get weapon finesse, since it's a dex focused build. But this ends up making you, for one feat that you get as part of the leveling, you actually end up being a really good tank. And you struggle a little bit with the early levels. The next thing you do is you then also I don't know if this is stacking correctly, so I'll go over the Oracle portion later. But then the next thing that you want to do is you want to take 4 levels in Rogue, and this doesn't need Thug specifically. Any of the Rogue classes will do. So if you want to go with Rogue, if you want to go with the what's the rogue class with the spellcasting? Any of them will do. Knife Master actually works pretty well with this. There are a lot of really good knives in the game, and I believe the Knife Master aspect stacks with kukris too. So again, any rogue will do, but I preferred the Thug with this build for for frightening. So whenever you successfully persuade an enemy, you demoralize them, and they're shaken for 1 round. Because they're shaken, and the other things that you get with this build, it gives you sneak attacks on them, and a big portion of this build, if you can't tell, is sneak attacks, which we'll get into with the feats too. But and then in addition, if the target is shaken for 4 or more rounds, the Thug makes the target frightened for one round, which basically means that after 4 rounds of fighting the same target, if they're not dead, they will be frightened. And there are other things that play into this too. And then the other part of the build is the finesse training. So at level 3, I'm sorry, did I say 4 levels of this? Yeah, I did say 4 levels. At level 3, you get finesse training. With finesse training, you get to pick a specific weapon, and you get to add your dexterity modifier instead of your strength modifier to your damage rolls. So planning this out, you can take claws. If you want this to be more effective in earlier levels, you can take whatever weapon you plan on using. This isn't necessary, but this is a nice little bonus aspect to it. So if you're the major thing though that we're taking here, Rogue Thug is for brutal beating, which you can choose to forego your sneak attack damage, to make the target sickened, which also plays into what we want. So this allows you to sneak attack as well. So if they resist your shaken, then you have the chance of getting them sickened. And then the final piece of this is the debilitating injury. So at 4th level, whenever you hit with a sneak attack, you reduce their AC by 2, or you can reduce their attack rolls by 2, or you can reduce their movement speed, whatever your choice is. So this allows you to either be a better tank or just do better damage. And then the rogue talents obviously give you extra feats. So you get 2 feats out of this 4-level dip, 2 d6 dice for sneak attack damage, weapon finesse training. You also get evasion and uncanny dodge out of it, which the evasion portion isn't. It's obtainable if you take another level in Scaled Fist Monk. However, you cannot get uncanny dodge with anything else. So after the 4 levels in Rogue Thug, you can go one of two routes. So you can take the 2 levels in Paladin, and this synergizes really well with the build because the 2 levels in Paladin not only gives you Smite Evils and the Lay on Hands, but it also gives you immunity to. Here's the disease. Oh, it's the 3rd level. Oh, I was wrong. Okay, sorry, that is incorrect. The reason you take the 2 levels in Paladin is because it gives you, at the 2nd level, you get to add your charisma bonus to all your saving throws. Where the mistake in my build was I took Oracle here. The thought behind this was that by taking the nature revelations, that I could double dip on the charisma bonus. Does not seem to actually apply correctly. So I would remove this level in Oracle and take another level in Paladin. I chose the Warrior of Light because the other Paladins, none of them really add anything that you don't already have. You may want to consider taking the one that gives you the Sneak Attack Paladin. The downside of the Sneak Attack Paladin is that you give up your smites. So I don't know if I'd recommend that because this allows you to apply your AC against the AC, allows you to apply your charisma against the AC of an enemy that you've targeted. It also allows you to apply your charisma to the damage that you do on that target. The limitation here is the number of them you get. So you have to be careful. You have to pick and choose your targets. But otherwise, it's a really good skill. And then the next thing that you want to do is you want to take 1 level in Alchemist. Any of the Alchemists will work as long as you get the mutagen. I prefer Vivisectionist simply because it gives you the sneak attack dice and the mutagen. But any of them will work. So if you have a preference for the bombs of the other classes or any other aspect to the Alchemists, they all work just fine as long as the Alchemist class gives you the mutagen. And the mutagen we're going to use is always the Dexterity one. So the Dexterity one does reduce your Wisdom score, but your Wisdom score is actually a dump stat in this build, so not a big deal. Just be aware that you're going to want to either find items or use buffs to boost your saves that are affected by Wisdom, because that will definitely be a weak point in the build until you become a dragon. And then for the remaining levels of the build, I found Slayer Arcane Enforcer to work really well. This isn't pivotal to the build, but it does bring a number of things that are really good for it. So the first thing is that it gives you access to both the shield spell from your spell list and Armored Mask as an arcane exploit, which is functionally mage armor. And mage armor is a big portion of the build because you're going to take Archmage armor because to get the charisma bonus from Scaled Fist, you need to not be wearing any armor. So what we're going to rely on for our armor for the majority of the game is going to be the Archmage armor mythic ability to enhance mage armor. What this does is it actually ends up being the best armor in the game. At Mythic rank 10, you get plus 14 to AC. Now, unfortunately, you obtain Mythic rank 10 like literally right before the last boss fight of the game, but you're going to spend a good chunk of the game somewhere between Mythic rank 5 and Mythic rank 8, which is going to give you the equivalent of full plate armor, or sorry, just below full plate armor to above full plate armor, which still allows you to, but it still allows you to apply the full amount of your dexterity modifier and your charisma modifier to your AC. One thing that you might want to consider is instead of the Slayer class is taking Magus. What Magus will do is it'll actually boost. So Magus will give you the ability to cast Mage Armor along with other spells, but it'll also allow you to apply your Intelligence modifier to your AC as well, so that gives you another slight little boost. But the reason that I prefer taking the Arcane Enforcer for this is because it gives us 2 extra things that no other class would give us in this combination. So primary function is being able to get Mage Armor with Archmage Armor, but then the other bonuses that it brings to the table is Study Target, which gives you bonuses to your attack rolls and makes your saves harder to save against, which will come into effect later on in the build as well. It also gives you more sneak attack damage, and then you get some Slayer talents. So one of my favorite Slayer talent is Dimension Slide, or I forget exactly what it's called, but it basically gives you Dimension Door, and then you can also take. My preference was the. See if I can find them. Ice Missile. So the reason why I took Ice Missile is obviously it scales off of your Charisma modifier, but it's because it gives you a Fortitude saving throw ability, and then I also took Lightning Lance. Now Lightning Lance I took primarily because if you hit, you get 20% concealment for 1 round, but it's also because it's a Fortitude saving throw, and that's because. So you have your main attacks, which are going to target AC. You've got the Gold Dragon Breath, which is a reflex saving throw, and then you've got the 2 spell abilities, which are Fortitude saving throws. So the only thing you don't have are will saving throws, which your casters are going to have covered anyways. So I didn't see. Plus, there was nothing in there's nothing in the build that works in that way anyways. So I was trying to cover as many bases as possible with the abilities. That gives you some versatility in what you can bring to a fight to deal with different opponents, because there are plenty of opponents who are going to have crazy high AC and you're not going to be able to hit them. So the final levels are all Arcane Enforcer, and the build order isn't specific as far as like what's best to take when. I didn't spend too much time on that, so it's not fully optimized in that sense. But these are the specific classes and levels that I would recommend. Yeah. Okay, and then we're going to move on to feats. So as I said, you start off with dodge from the Scaled Fist, and then you take Crane Wing. And so this means you're going to be fighting defensively for most of the game, if not the entirety of the game. You can turn it off, obviously, but with the build, you're not going to take a huge hit to your attack rolls anyways, but it's going to give you some major boosts to your AC. So then the next few levels, while you're leveling through a rogue, you're going to continue to work on being a tank. So these are not the correct order in which I would have taken them, but what I would have taken next would have been Crane Wing, and this gives us +4 dodge against melee attacks. And then one of the rogue talents I took was Crane Riposte, and so that gives you when you lose the +4 from Crane Wing, you're going to get an attack of opportunity, which is going to give you an opportunity to hit them with a sneak attack, which plays into part of the build where anytime you land a sneak attack, because the final portion of the build is getting blinding critical. So anytime you get an attack off, there's always the chance that you crit, and then if you crit, you're going to get blinding critical, which gives you concealment, permanent concealment against the enemy. So then the rest of the, that's it for the defensive stuff. So you basically have the entire suite of the Crane feats. You can add more defensive things when you get the 9th mythic level of Gold Dragon, but we'll go into that later. It's not necessary, but it does help. So with all of these, and then additionally with Archmage Armor, you're looking at somewhere between 40 and 50 AC, depending on your level, your mythic rank, and the equipment that you're using, which makes you very, very difficult to hit throughout the entirety of the game. And this comes online very early. This I'd say level 7-ish is when you're really hard to hit. Level 10, you're nearly impossible to hit. It literally takes a crit by that point to hit you, unless you're fighting the select few enemies that have really high bonuses to attack, which you still are able to augment. I always bring Nenio, but there are other ways of doing this where if you can give yourself Blur, you have concealment as a tank, which you can get that from multiple sources, and that's you can put that on any tank. But this makes this tank in particular really, really difficult to hit. And then the rest of the stuff is offensive focused. So I take combat reflexes in this build, just because more attacks of opportunity means more chances to sneak attack, which means more chances to crit, which means more chances to apply not just blinding critical, but also sicken and frightened and shaken. So the entire point, what you're trying to do when you hit, period, is to apply some sort of a debuff, which then gives you, which then plays into the shadow defenses. So anytime you hit a shaken, frightened, or panicked opponent, you're attacking their flat-footed AC instead of their normal AC, which is going to take a huge chunk off of most enemies' AC, which means that you're going to be hitting more often. And because you're dual wielding, as you can see, this means that you're going to be getting a lot more attacks, which again just plays into the build, right? So the more times we can attack, the more chances we get to sneak attack, which allows us to apply the debuffs. So then the other pieces I went with was the improved critical and critical focus. This is so that when we do crit, we're more likely to get the confirmation on the roll, so that we actually do crit instead of just a normal damage that was in the crit range. I chose to take wings. This is not a necessary component of the build. It only adds +3 against melee. The nice thing is that it allows you to ignore the difficult terrain too, and as the tank, that's kind of important in my opinion. Mobility is super important in this game. But this is not necessary. It's not a huge piece of the build that if you're missing, you're gonna miss. You can easily take another offensively focused feat, so like crit focus for like a weapon, or anything really works in here. I chose to take this because, like I said, the point of this build is tanking, so everything that I could do to make this a better tank is what I took. Some of the other things that you're able to take in here is you can go the dazzling display route and take not shadow defenses. No, I did take shadow defenses. I totally forgot about this portion of the build. So then the other things that we're doing with both the rogue talents and the slayer talents is we're going to play into the shadow defenses feats. So you take dazzling display and you take shadow defenses. Dazzling display and intimidating prowess. And then what that does is whenever you kill an enemy, you automatically make a Dazzling Display Roll, which can frighten opponents. So everything is about applying the shaken, frightened, or exhausted debuffs, which then basically mean that you don't need anyone to help you to get a crit. And I know I also took Outflank in here somewhere. I just don't remember the exact source. And so we're going to move on to the final portion of the build, is the Mythic Path. This does not matter. You can literally pick any one of the originating choices. None of them really make a big difference in this build. I chose to take the Dance Macabre because of the negative energy, which I didn't get the opportunity to, because I redid this basically at the end of the game. But the negative energy would allow you to, as a soul tank, damage all the enemies around you. The hang up here is that a lot of the demons are going to have negative energy immunity or negative energy reduction. But there are some enemies that you need the negative energy to kill specifically, because they have regen of some kind. But anyways, regardless of which one of the originating abilities you pick, doesn't really matter. Bit of Fun works pretty well because it gives you the what's it called? Mirror image. I'm not a big fan of it because it's really limited in the number of uses, and it's really limited in the number of images. But that's also a really good tanking ability. It's probably nearly essential in the higher difficulties, but this is not a 1000% optimized build. I don't know if this would work well in the much higher difficulties. I've taken on enemies in not normal. It's what I played most of it through, but I bumped up their stats. So I chose the unadjusted stats, and I got through a big chunk in the game in the middle. I had to bump it back down to moderately weakened enemies to get through Act 4 and 5. Well, mostly Act 5, since there were some enemies whose AC was just so out of reach that none of my characters were going to be able to reach them or hit them. But yeah, and then the first mythic ability that you take is Archmage Armor. And this is because this allows you to... actually, I don't know if I would take this first. I would take this when you get Slayer, which would be somewhere around Mythic rank 5 or 6. This isn't something you need to take until you cast Mage Armor. You could always take this first and then use potions. That works too. I found that annoying, and the majority of my playthrough I had a level of Sorcerer that allowed me to do this. And so while this is an essential component of the build, you can put this. You can hold off on this. I would recommend it early, and then using potions, or even just taking the level of Slayer early, just for the Archmage Armor. But this is definitely an essential component of the build. And then at the next mythic rank, we're going to take Dodge, because it increases our AC by 1. I chose this because I knew I was taking the Dragon Path, or Gold Dragon Path, Mythic Path. Again, this is something that you'd want to put farther down the list as you play through, because while this is really good for when you finally become able to turn into a dragon, that doesn't happen until Mythic rank 9. So you get the Dragon Mythic Path at 8, but you can only turn into a dragon once you achieve Mythic rank 9, which is, again, really late in the game. So I would not recommend this here, but I would recommend it later on in the build. I would probably take Full Reservoir in place of Master Shapeshifter, or even just move both of these abilities up and then put Master Shapeshifter in at rank 7. And then again, because I knew I was going with Claws, I chose the Mythic Weapon Focus and the Mythic Improved Critical. I don't know if... these might be better off as weapons instead of the Claws. You're going to be doing really good damage with the Claws in general just because of your really high stats. But again, these work really well the final portion of the build. And then obviously you have Bolt Dragon Breath when you reach rank 8. And then rank 9 is when you get 3 feats for free, which you can ignore all the requirements. So what I found really helpful in here was taking Cautious Fighter, which you can normally only get if you're a halfling, which gives us an additional 2 AC to our 2 bonus to our AC. This is not an essential component. By this point, your AC is in the 60s, pre-buffed, or sorry, not pre-buffed, after you're buffed, which there are very few enemies that are even going to be able to hit you. Karamzada was one of the few that was able to hit me, but it still took an 18 or a 19 to hit on normal difficulty. And then I took Dreadful Carnage, so whenever you outright kill an enemy, you basically get to make an intimidation check within 30 feet, which causes your enemies to frightens them, which is we get a bunch of benefits from. And then I took Greater Weapon Focus Claw, so that we're hitting more often. And then this is just an essential part of, this is a core part of it that you automatically get. So at this point, you now have spell resistance equal to 15 plus your mythic rank, which gives you spell resistance of 24, which it's not crazy high, but you're not going to get, very few enemies are going to be able to get through your spell resistance on normal difficulty. I'm not sure about higher difficulties. And you're also getting elemental resistances from early on too. You're also immune to poison, disease, fear, confusion, paralysis, and sleep. So you're not going to be able to, your enemies aren't going to be able to affect you with much. And then the few things that they can affect you with, you also get bonuses to your saving throws. So this shores up the one issue that we had with our saving throws being a little low from our low wisdom, but we have good reflex saves, and then we also have evasion, where when we fail our reflex save, we take no damage, and there's a lot of reflex saves in this, especially at the end. Those are really devastating abilities, so that makes you a really good tank at the end of the game. This also does a number of things for you. So we're not really spell heavy focused, but this does boost the damage that you do from your the arcane exploits. This boosts them further, but we're not really using those for the damage. Those are just more of like giving you options. Again, it's pretty limited. And then the last piece is equipment. So early on, you're going to want to focus on monk weapons. Ignore this. I just have this because I think it looks cool. I've actually stuck with defense by offense for almost the entirety of the game. When you do find this is a really great weapon for you. You put it in your offhand, and you get +1 to your AC. And it's not tight, so it stacks with everything, which still allows you to cast shield on yourself and still get the deflection bonus. The size in the game are going to be really good for your for this build because they're monk weapons, so you're automatically going to get additional attacks out of these. I found this one to be really useful when you get it because of the effect, not because of the damage. It's good damage, but the major piece here is the effect, which is why it's also in the offhand. So whenever you land a killing blow, all enemies within 15 feet must pass a will saving throw or become panicked for 3 rounds. And this also gives us a bonus to our persuasion skill checks, which also plays into the dazzling display and the other aspects of that build, where we're looking to make intimidation checks to cause different effects on the enemies. And there are a number of other things that are pretty good. This nunchuck is actually pretty good too, especially if you're tanking, because it adds 1d6 to all of your damage. So it's an additional damage dice on top of all the other damage dice that we're getting. But it only happens when you're fighting more than one enemy in melee. So this is really good when you tank a bunch of enemies. but there are better weapons, even though it does an additional 1d6. I also ran most of the campaign with Finian as a nunchuck, but and that was just because I like the way it looked. But he works as a monk weapon. Any of the monk weapons is a good pick. This was part of a different part of my build. I went with the background, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting what it's called. The Aldori background. Thinking that I would play into that a little bit, since you get like the +2 to AC if you really want to use this at the start of the fight. That ended up not being as good as I thought. But there aren't any backgrounds that really play into anything important in here, so I just missed it when I was rebuilding this. I would recommend, instead of the Aldori background, I would take like Pickpocket, that gives you +2 initiative. There's a number of other things that also they give you like minor bonuses, but none of them are pivotal to the build, so nothing really matters. Nothing's really important in there. Why is this? Oh, that's right, the Holy Aura. And then the rest of this. So what you're doing every level is you were putting all of your stats into dexterity as you level, and then what you're looking to get is dexterity and charisma boosting items as much as possible, or anything that helps with your AC until you're in the mid-50s, and then you start throwing around whatever kind of fits into different things. So the Bracers of Abrupt Onslaught work really well because they give you an additional 1d6 damage when you sneak attack, which is going to be often. I couldn't really find any good boots that play into this, but I'm sure I missed a lot of items. This one just works because it gives us +2 on saving throws. It's only against movement impairing conditions, but it's still, it's that, or the slot would have been empty. These are not pivotal to the class, so if you find something that fits in better here, that's fine too. But this I found worked really well because it gives us even more sneak attack dice. Any +6 or any of the dexterity belts work really well. I believe Arushale has the... Someone has the... Yes, this one. This could work on ours too. Actually, this part would be better for my character. But I originally had this on Arushale, because Arushale's build was kind of built into doing crit damage. But anyways, any of those work for the belt slot. The main focus here is dexterity. There's only two... There's technically... Well, okay, so there's 3 robes. Only 2 of them apply here because a monk of good alignment can wear them. The third one is a monk of evil alignment, which I actually give to Rigel because that's part of his build. Anything that adds AC here works really well. This I found to be the best because it also... So this adds +5 to your AC, and then it also adds 2 to... or was adding 2 to my dexterity. Is that not the case anymore? No. Okay. It's adding 2 to my charisma, but that still boosts our AC. So this is a +5, and this is also not a natural armor bonus. It's just an armor bonus. So this can be stacked with natural armor bonuses. So like if you have someone who has bark skin, this will stack with that. I was running with... Who has it now? Yeah. I was running with charisma bonus headpieces until I got this, but this one's really good. So this gives you fast healing 2, which is gives you damage resistance 5, which is also but gives you +20 bonus on all your saving throws. The -6 penalty only applies to something very specific, so while it is detrimental in that aspect, it's only a very small portion of the game, in which case you can take it off. These I didn't get till fairly late in the game. They do have a pretty noticeable downside. The -2 penalty to your attack rolls is you're definitely going to notice it. But by this point in the game, we're looking at like plus 30s in to hit anyway, which means that only the highest AC enemies are going to not get hit by your attacks to begin with. But this, again, plays into what we're trying to do with debuffing enemies as much as possible. So when you do hit the first time against a new enemy, they have to pass a fortitude saving throw, or they become vulnerable, or they're stunned and vulnerable to sonic damage. This worked really well when you're in dragon form. I believe this is bugged, because what this does is, while it does do an additional 20 damage to the targets that it hits, it does 20 damage to you, and I don't believe that's intentional. It also makes it raises the DC of the Dragon Breath by 2, which is only beneficial for you. This gives you 2 additional 9th level spell slots, but since we don't have 9th level spell slots, that part doesn't apply. But it's not going to be better on anybody else anyways. And since you can choose to just come in and out of dragon form, this is almost entirely only useful, or mostly, I shouldn't say that. This is very useful on your character more so than on others. I chose this for one of the relic upgrade paths. The reason being that this gives everybody else an additional 1d6 on any targets that I'm attacking. And it gives us a +2 bonus on attack rolls against that target. And that's all the pieces of equipment. You want to leave this slot blank. If anyone found anything that does go in here that counts as a rogue, let me know. I didn't, because what happens is the minute you put on armor, you lose a whole bunch of your stuff. Even despite the fact that this is a +5 full plate. But anyways. So yeah. Also, this actually works pretty well with the build too, or this synchronizes pretty well with the build. And I was also running around with the Triceratops on my main character, just because the main character is always in the party. But eventually, this becomes actually more of a hindrance than a help, so I stopped bringing him along. This is just the best stuff I found. I'm sure I missed a lot of equipment. I didn't go on a good chunk of the companion side quests. I'm sure I missed a bunch of stuff that would fit in better here. But this is the best that I was able to come up with. That's still it's really fun. Your damage output's pretty high. You've got a lot of versatility in what you can do. And you're a really good tank, but you're also able to put out a decent amount of damage. So let's see if I can get into a fight to show you. Okay, cool.
We meet again. You have changed since.
We're just gonna fight him. Okay. So just to show you how good this build is, we're gonna. I prefer to play on turn-based mode for the most part, just in case like something goes wrong, I can respond to it pretty quickly. Let's actually check what our difficulty stands are at. Oh, that's right. I was trying to power through this. Let's go with none. So this would be normal difficult, or sorry, core difficulty equivalent stats. So we're gonna move in, and you can open it up with the Dragon Breath. This is gonna hit most targets. Most targets are gonna fail. And see, there's that 20 damage that you probably shouldn't be taking. I'm not sure why that's going on. Oh. What? How did he hit me? Wait, that's not right. Minus 14. Oh, then no, that's it. That's his to hit. No, that's his to hit. Why am I... Okay, I don't know what's going on here. But that would change his rolls even on non-adjusted stats, he would have to roll a 16 or higher to hit me because of that. So I don't know what's going on with that. Let's see if that keeps going. He was a pushover in normal. I mopped the floor with him. Oh, did I not? Oh, let's keep going. I'll show you how much damage you can do with this. This is...
Cover me.
I'm not getting my sneak attacks out. There we go. No, oh wait, that's because you... I don't understand why... Okay, well... Just keep going. So obviously I haven't thoroughly tested this on the higher difficulties. I'm not sure why he's hitting me so easily. Oh, we're gonna Dragon Breath again. But yeah, even solo, like, look at the chunks of health I'm taking out of his HP. He's hitting me more than I'm not sure why he's... Yeah, I don't... Where is this minus 14 coming from? But yeah, he's still dealing with a 63 AC, and I'm not even fully buffed. So, and then when with another character down here, I'd be sneak attacking him more often. If there were other enemies, I'd be able to take them out, which would then give me the chance to debuff him and so on and so forth. So yeah, that's my tank build. Obviously, this is kind of a lousy showing in combat, but this is one of the bigger bosses in the game. Let's actually see if I can roll back. Let me show you a normal fight. Actually, this is like one of the series of fights at the end of the game anyways. So these are really difficult enemies to begin with. But yeah, this will get you through most of the game, and you're going to be very difficult to hit for most enemies. The only guys that really gave me major trouble on normal settings were Karamzada. But that's actually ironically because he was killing my teammates and not me. Discari proved to be quite a challenge. That was hard. Okay, we're gonna ignore this. I have to go. I don't need your gift. Oh, what's this? Daybreak. Oh, cool. Okay. I'm only going to take my main character in here. Oh, let's make sure. Yeah, so I've played most of the game through on this setting. Let's go ahead and put it on none. I know this is going to make the Gallo here really, like, basically impossible to hit for the time being. But there are ways of dealing with that, so I'm just going to show you. Yeah, so even with unaffected stats, they're having a hard. They have to roll crits to hit me. We can blast all of them. See, she has to roll 20s to hit. He's not able to do any damage to us. Let's see. He can't even overcome our spell resistance. And even if you can, we have really good saves. Like, insane saves. Let's take out these guys. Oh, see? There's a crit. So... where it is? There's the critical hit. Right? We've got a plus 49 to our attack rolls, which is going to allow us to hit basically most things in the game. There are very few enemies that we're going to not be able to hit reliably. These guys have to crit to hit me too. And the cool thing about playing a tank like this is this allows you to pick and choose the targets that you go and deal with. This has allowed me to focus on spellcasters as the real threats because most enemies aren't able to hit me. See, they have to crit to hit me. I think he's stunned or something to that effect. Like, yeah, he's not even getting in turns because he's stunned. We are going to run into some problems, so, like, let's check him out. So his AC is going to be 60, which means that we have to roll an 11 or higher to hit him off of the initial attack, because that's our highest attack bonus. So he's going to be a little bit difficult to hit, but not, like, impossibly so. So even solo in here, like, none of my companions, none of my party members are helping right now. And they have yet to damage me at all. So as a matter of fact, let's do this. What, is he confused? I didn't. Did I do that? We're actually going to take that off, and then we're going to turn off the AI. No. Stay here. Oh, let's focus on these guys. Oh, Nania was a little too close. Oh, well, it doesn't matter. Yeah, look, just... Let's focus on the right enemies. See, and then you can get the fear effects in. Oh, what happened? Oh my, he sickened me. But yeah, very few effects that can actually hurt you. See, they have to crit to hit you, which I hate that. It feels like they crit all the time in comparison to us critting. So he's gonna just come ripping through here, kill all my allies.
Stab their backs.
Yeah, see, look how he just tears through the rest of the party in comparison. Oh, and we got a crit on him to get to blind him. Let's go ahead and breath him.
Your death awaits.
He's singing us again.
Kiss your life goodbye.
There's another crit. So yeah, it takes, and this is one of the most difficult, well, I shouldn't say enemies, but enemy types. Like, there are very few things that I've run across in the game that put up as much of a fight as these guys. So this is a top tier enemy, and I am almost untouchable by him. So yeah. Let's go ahead. Yeah. What is wrong? Staggered. Why am I staggered? Am I just permanently? No.
Cover me.
Oh, that's why. Okay, let's turn the AI back on, because it seems to be causing me problems. Let's go ahead and breath him.
Your luck's
See,
run out.
crits. We're not getting sneak attacks on him, because he's immune to most of the effects that allow us to do that. But even then, basically 30 damage a hit. And this is not playing into the fact that the dragon form gives you like huge strength boosts. So if you went that route, this could be doing more damage, but obviously you'd be less tanky. So
Isles, on the other hand,
let me see if I can get into a bigger fight.
they dare threaten me. Stab their backs. I'll loot your corpse.
So here's one of the bigger fights. Let's see how well we do.
Your
Gonna
death
take out the small fry first.
This is my chance to
Oh!
mistake.
What is he hitting us with? Why am I flat-footed? That shouldn't even be possible.
Mistake.
Oh, anyways. So, pretty rare that I get hit even by some of the bigger enemies in the game. So yeah, that's my tank build. Thanks for joining me, and I hope to see you next time.